The rancher had just finished stacking the last bale of hay when he heard the faint crunch of footsteps on the gravel. It was late afternoon, the sun dropping low and casting long golden shadows across the dry fields. The air smelled of dust, sweat, and horses. He set the pitchfork against the wall, wiping his brow with the back of his hand, already preparing himself to bark at whoever had wandered onto his land. He had little patience left for peddlers or strangers, not when every day was a battle to keep the ranch from falling apart. But when he turned, the words froze in his throat. She stood at the edge of the barn doors, framed in the fading light, looking more like a weary traveler than a trespasser. Her dress was worn thin, the edges frayed, and her boots carried layers of road dust. Her hair, though tangled from the wind, glinted with a softness that caught the sunlight, and her eyes, tired, but steady, met his with a quiet desperation. She clutched her hands together as if holding herself upright took effort. "Sir," she said softly, her voice trembling yet determined, "if you'll let me, I can clean your barn in exchange for just a plate of food." The rancher blinked. He wasn't sure if hunger had made him imagine her words. He'd grown used to silence on this land, to the company of animals and the echo of his own thoughts. Strangers didn't often come this far, and if they did, they never asked for work in exchange for food. They usually begged or stole. For a moment, all he could do was stare. Her presence did something to him he couldn't name. She was fragile, yes, but there was pride in her posture, in the way she refused to let her hunger bow her shoulders. He saw it in the way her chin lifted, as though she was daring him to turn her away. He adjusted the brim of his hat, covering the sudden flicker of emotion in his eyes. "You're saying you'll clean my barn for supper?" His voice came out rougher than he intended. She nodded quickly. "Yes, sir. I don't want charity. Just work for food." The rancher studied her a long moment. His barn didn't need cleaning, at least not badly enough to trade for the last of the stew waiting in his kitchen. But something about her made the word no die on his lips. Maybe it was the way her hands trembled, or the way she tried to hide the tremor by clasping them tighter. Maybe it was the memory of what it felt like to be proud and desperate at the same time. He knew that feeling. He'd lived it too long. "You ever cleaned a barn before?" he asked finally. A flicker of hope crossed her face. "Yes, sir. I grew up on a farm. I know my way around hay and horses." His chest tightened. He didn't want to admit how much he believed her, how much he wanted to believe her. He stepped aside, motioning toward the barn interior. "All right. You can start with the stalls. There's a bucket and brush by the tack room." She smiled, small, weary, but real, and it lit up something inside him he hadn't